A very good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this evening CEO talk. We are presenting a live CEO talk on Paytm Money and Wealth Management for All by Mr. Varun Sridhar, the CEO of Paytm Money India. May I now request Dr. Sundar Venkatesh, Program Director of Professional Master at the School of Management, to give a brief introduction of the talk this evening. Please, Dr. Venkatesh.
Thank you very much, Kunal, and thank you everyone for joining us for this evening's webinar. Paytm, of course, is quite a well-known company, and I think it's one of the hottest, highly valued fintech companies in the world today. The recent round of funding of Paytm put the valuation of the company at nearly $20 billion. It's a marvelous story. And it has done a lot of good. So it has brought convenience, it has made banking much easier, and it has made financial flows much smoother. Paytm Money, of course, is, as the title says here, wealth management for all. For those of us like me who grew up in India, investing in mutual funds, it's a very complicated matter. I think Varun will lay out today what he and his company have done to take wealth management to the masses. So the traditional image of wealth management is of a relationship manager sitting in a very plush office, offering a very nice cup of coffee and a very exclusive service for those with money. So in a sense, Paytm Money has democratized wealth management, and that's a wonderful story worth hearing from the CEO himself. Varun, of course, is, I think, the quintessential fintech CEO. I think, as I said, he's probably one of the youngest CEOs in India, and has had a wonderful, colorful career spanning many banks across geographies. The way he described his choice of business school, he went to study business in SDA Bocconi, one of the top schools in the world. Tells you pretty much about how entrepreneurial and how on the moment kind of person he is. Varun also was instrumental in setting up the operations of Deutsche Bank in India many years back, and I'm sure he will say a little bit about himself when he starts his talk. So we are indeed very fortunate to have you, Varun, and thank you very much for joining us. As I understand, Paytm is now currently hosting a town hall meeting in order to deal with this massive spike in COVID cases in India. And for you to take time off and join us today and to keep the commitment that you made several weeks back, I really applaud that, and I'm sure all of us here will join me in thanking you for keeping your schedule, with us. Thanks again for coming, Varun. And now I hand you back to Chloe Mai for the next part of the program. Thank you.
May I now invite Dr. Naveed Anwar to deliver a welcome message.
Thank you so much, Kunplamai. And once again, it's our honor and privilege to have speakers of this caliber. And I can see that many of the other speakers who have already spoken on this platform are also joining us. So this is really a privilege for us to be able to bring together CEOs of such eminent organizations in the region together to share their experiences and also provide some very much needed knowledge to the publics as well as the banking sector and finance sector. And today we are also very fortunate to have, like Dr. Venkatesh mentioned, a very dynamic and young CEO. And I was going through the profile of his profile and company, and it's really amazing that what they are doing at this time. And I share the the views expressed by Venkatesh about wealth management being very exclusive and binds. In fact, sometimes when I used to get a call from people who say, I would like to always shy away from that because I think this is not for us, because this is maybe for some other people that they should be getting into this wealth management. But I think it's great to see that it is now accessible through this platform. And I personally am very interested to hear about that. And this whole network that we have here today is also something that AIT is very proud of to host and also to develop. And as you might have heard, AIT has now started a new, more formal way to create such network, which is called the Ait Enterprises Alliance. So that provides a more formal way for our partners, our collaborators, our friends to interact with each other and also develop, meaningful partnerships with AIT as one of the cornerstone there. So we will share more information about that. For now, I will just once again welcome and then I hope that this will be a very fruitful discussion for everyone joining. So thank you once again. So really it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naveed. May I now request Dr. Roger Rivermore, Dean School of Management, to deliver a welcome message as well.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. Roger Livermore. I am the Dean of the School of Management, and I would also like to echo the welcomes that my two colleagues have provided for the speaker today. I think it's incredibly important for the school that we engage and interact with people of this type of caliber across the program. For those of you who are unaware of AIT, we are a fairly mature university, 62 years of age. The School of Management has got over 30 years of people graduating across the programs that we have. In the last 2 years, we have really tried hard to strengthen the type of programs that we have to make them relevant to the workplace of not just 2021, but 2030 and 2040. So we've introduced quite a few new programs and courses which relate to digital transformation, business risk, cyber risk, and a whole range of other type of programs and courses which we feel are relevant to the next 10 and 20 years of any industry that is important to Southeast Asia and South Asia. But I do believe that it's incredibly important for us to have really high-level speakers. And in the 2 years that I've had at AIT in the School of Management, I've tried to go through and encourage that all of the faculty interact at this type of level, and for us to learn more about what we can do to strengthen the school, to strengthen industry. And I would also like to go through and welcome everybody here today, not just the speaker, but everybody else who've gone through on this Thursday evening to listen to what I think is going to be a very interesting session. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roger. May I now request Dr. Sundar Venkatesh to give a brief introduction of the Professional Master Program at AIT.
Thank you very much, Kunal. This, of course, will not take a lot of time. Very quickly, I would like to share with you an educational innovation that AIT has been championing over the last 10 years. Kunal, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is called...
Dr. Venkatesh, do you present in PDF or just...
I present in PDF. I will manage the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see the screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the Professional Masters is an innovation that AIT championed about 10 years back. It's a master's program for working professionals. And a couple of things that the program does are very unique. And as someone who has been involved with this program over the last decade, I like to highlight these. One is that we focus on what is important for that particular domain or segment. So the learning is very deep. And the learning is practitioner oriented because we encourage participants with at least 5 years of experience in the domain. So the Professional Masters spawns several disciplines, and I'm just going to share with you a few of the Professional Masters here, and more can be seen on our website at the Ait Enterprise Alliance and also on the main website of AIT. So basically, we offer an opportunity for you to earn a master's degree while continuing to do your work and do it in 1 year's time. So this is to acknowledge the fact that you're all experienced, you're busy individuals, and therefore we need to deliver the essential knowledge in the shortest possible time. The eligibility is for professionals with 5 years of relevant work experience. So the classroom is a place that is rich in the quality of discussions and intercourse. And bachelor's degree is desirable, but we have recognized over time that there are many individuals who have fantastic work experience, but not necessarily a university degree. And so we encourage people with experience to apply, and the degree requirement can be waived in cases where people have high quality experience. Of course, the program being in English, proficiency in English is quite important. So basically what we try to do is inculcate strategic thinkings. So since the participants are managers with considerable experience, we want them to prepare themselves for the next level of responsibilities, professional responsibilities in their organizations. And we also focus on business competencies in specific domains. So the emphasis is more on depth, and and it's not a general purpose MBA program where breadth is the main focus. The classroom is, as with most AIT classrooms, a composition of people from many countries in the region. So there is a tremendous amount of learning that can be had by interacting with professional peers from the region. In the batch that is coming up in August 2021, we are expecting our classes to have people from, professionals from at least 6-7 countries. Innovative delivery, and we have evolved. I think Corona has made us evolve. Some of the things that we had been talking about have now become realities because there are no options. So we use the best of in-class hybrid. AIT has made tremendous investments in hybrid classrooms around the campus. We have 18 hybrid classrooms. We have also mastered the live online teaching. There are self-learning components, but there are also in-class components at various locations around the region. So one could expect to attend classes in Colombo or in Bangkok or in Dubai and so on. Faculty body, a lot of practitioners from the different industries and high quality academics. So the team combines well to deliver a very practical educational experience. In August 2021, the School of Management will be starting 2 programs. The Professional Masters in Banking and Finance has been around, so we will be entering the 9th batch in August 2021. This is essentially for people in the banking and financial service industry. And the Professional Masters in Business Analytics and Digital Transformation is the outcome of a tremendous amount of demand from people in AIT's network for a program of this kind. So PMBADT will make its start in August 2021. The first batch will join us in August 2021. So please do write to us at this email address or visit our website at www.som.ait.ac.th. And I will quickly share this with you. So those of you who are interested in getting to know about this, for all attendees, here is the file. Okay. So I'll have the files mailed to you after the program. Thank you very much. Over to Kunal.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Venkatej. May I now request Dr. Venkatej again to give an introduction of Mr. Varun Sridhar.
Well, I think I mentioned about Varun earlier in my talk, but this is also an opportunity for me to welcome some of our other panelists here today. We have with us Mr. Anil Shah. Anilji, welcome.
Thank you very much. As always, a pleasure to be here on the panel. Thank you so much.
So Anil ji famously, delivered the sixth CEO talk, and after that, unfortunately, was COVID positive. But now
Yes,
I'm sure he is twice vaccinated. Would that be correct?
that is true. Got the second one the day before yesterday.
Congratulations, Anil ji. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we also have with us the former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Dr. Vijayawardene. Dr. Vijayawardene, welcome. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Venkatesh. Glad to be here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijayawardene. And we are also joined by Dr. Syed Mamun, who is the Deputy CEO of the leading credit rating agency in Bangladesh, CRSL. Dr. Mamun, welcome.
Yeah, hello, sir, and good evening to everyone.
And we are pleased to have with us Mr. Krishna Subedi from Nabil Bank. Krishna ji, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Venkat.
So may I now hand over the floor to Varun for his talk? Is that right, Kunal?
Yes.
Okay. Varun, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you. First of all, I'm overwhelmed by the kind of audience we have and the kind of people on the panel, and AIT and Thailand always brings me back to some memories. Right, it's a school that I tried to get admission in 2008, I guess. Right, when I went to Bakuni, and eventually I left to Italy, as Professor Venkatesh said. So what we'll try and do, I'm going to try and talk a bit about maybe 5-7 minutes about myself, not more. So you get an introduction of my life. For more than anything else, I think it sets context as to why I'm doing what I'm doing today. Because I have come to realize with age and losing hair that purpose in life is important, right? 20 years back, my life was different, right? I think I lived it differently. So I maybe spend 5 minutes, 6 minutes on my life in a summary, and then maybe 30 minutes on Paytm/Paytm Money. We'll leave some time for questions. And Dr. Venkatesh, I tend to speak a lot. So in between, if you say, hey, Varun, time's running out or people are getting bored, please stop, and we'll change the topic and so on. So, but very happy to be here amongst all of you. I'm really one of the reasons I accepted the invite was I like the whole Asian fraternity around, and I think it's fantastic. So I was born to professors. My father is a professor of a business school, right? So the business school is called MDI Gurgaon. So he was the first professor of the school when they launched their MBA program. So all my life, I've actually been brought up in a school. And my dad used to always say, if you ever become something in your life, and go do speak at business school, then go teach young kids. And my mom is a principal of a rural school of a manufacturing company called Hero Honda Motorcycles. She runs all their CSR and school activities. She's been teaching for 30 years. So I was born to parents who are educationists, and they somehow told me in life that Varun, you have to run this Indian race, right? And there's something called an Indian race. And if you don't know what an Indian race is, I wish you could shop for Indian parents, but if you can't, ask your Indian friends about what is an Indian race is, right? So you run an Indian race the minute you're born, and you're 18, 19, they tell you have to go to these schools, you have to become a doctor, engineer, chartered accountant, you have to work like this, you have to study like this. And then there's a whole society pressure that keeps you going in the race for all your life, right? And I was exactly like that. I was one of them. So I started my chartered accountancy immediately after I was 18. I got a very good all India score and all that. And I started studying, and about 1 week before my second exam, so in the first exam, which is called Foundation in India, I cleared with a very good score. In the second exam, it was very tough to clear. I was a week away from it. And in my college, elections were happening. And because elections were happening, I decided never to be a CA again in my life. And I decided to contest elections and become a politician, right? And I ended up winning elections, and winning Delhi University elections is a big thing, right? It was a very, and I was this very educated guy who didn't have any sort of backing or ability to influence a big election. But we did, and we won 90% of votes, and my life changed. I realized for the first time that taking a decision that you believe in as compared to what the society believes in really helps you go a long way. Because all of a sudden, the next 1 year, I had a great time. After that, I worked in a bunch of places. My first job, I'm going to spend a bit of time on it, was in Citibank as a sales officer. So I was one of these guys wearing a blue jacket, standing outside all these ATMs across different countries. And I used to work in a place called Cochin in India, selling credit cards, personal loans, and so on and so forth. Right? So I was really the junior most person in the pyramid. That was my first banking job. And I was very happy doing it. I used to always run around, and everybody used to tell me, like all my friends, they say, Varun, you're the most intelligent person in college. You're the topper, blah, blah, blah. What happened to you? You got into elections, and your life is messed up. because all my friends were doing MBAs from top schools or engineering, and I was kind of a sales guy on the street. So next time you block a salesperson or you do something, think about 20 years from there, the same person is going to be talking to you about philosophy of life, right? But I discovered that sales is a great thing. That you lose ego, you lose a lot of things, and you get to challenge yourself because every person is new. Every individual will teach you something, right? It's a great way to meet people. So I kind of lost any fear I had way back, and then life was a different thing. So I worked for Citibank for a bit, then I worked for Deutsche Bank. As Dr. Venkatesh was mentioning, I was employee number 4 of their consumer finance startup. And it was great to launch a company from ground zero. I did 0 to 1. What I learned there was how to serve tea coffee to 20 people, how to write IT functional specification documents, how to do data analytics, how to do board presentations, how to sleep in the conference room table, how to have a life without having a weekend. You learn very nice things in a startup. But I discovered one thing, that I loved the energy. I loved the fact that you had an idea, discuss. So I was interviewed in a 10 by 10 square feet room, right? Really small. But I asked my boss, I said, where's the bank? He said, this is the bank, right? And this table is all that we have. And so that's how my life started. And I did Deutsche Bank for a bit. At the end of Deutsche Bank, I did my MBA. And one of the reasons I decided to speak during COVID is crisis is great, right? Look forward to a crisis, because in 2008, when I went to my B school, my first day was Lehman Brothers collapse, and I wanted to be an investment banker, right? I'm nowhere close to being an investment banker. I'm still very much a retail banker. But the fun part of it is crisis is fantastic. Way back in 2008, when crisis hit, and many of you would have seen 2008 much harder than today. There's no internet, there's no way to do this, there's no way to apply for jobs. Really, really tough for a financial person. But I got through it, and I discovered that in a crisis, 99% people will be pessimistic. But if you find 1% like you can do 1:1,000 much faster. So I kind of got inspired by that. And so I made myself a 0 to 1 guy, and I started looking forward to a crisis, right? So these are the two things I would look forward to, saying, where is the next crisis? So the next one happened in Egypt in 2011. I was 31, and the Egyptian revolution happened, and I was consulting BNP Paribas, and the bank was on Tahrir Square, where all the violence happened. So I've seen 800 people die, people shooting at me, all that happened. Very bad day for me personally. But at the end of the project, after 2 months, the central bank essentially gave us an award for being the best consultants, because we helped restart Egypt. And once we did it, I got a job. And at 31, I was head of retail banking for a bank with about 2.5 people. And when my boss made me the offer, the CEO of BNP Paribas, I was, the only question I asked him was what would be on my business card. He said, don't you want to know your salary? I said, who's going to ask salary now? It's a fantastic job. So I took it. I worked in Egypt for a bit. I restructured the bank. Then I sold the bank to Emirates NBD. And I moved to Paris, where I was deputy head of about 16 different banks with about 40,000 people. And I want to give you an example of a few projects I did. I launched a digital bank in Europe together with a bunch of people. It was called Hello Bank. We launched a digital bank in China called iBank in Nanjing. We did a bunch of projects in San Francisco, in Poland. In Poland, we bought an agri bank, merged it with another bank. We restructured a bank in Ukraine. We launched a cards business in Turkey. So a bunch of things. But at the end, I got bored. And for me, Asia was calling. For me, India was calling. Home was calling. Because, our Prime Minister was running around, Mr. Modi, in 2014, 2015. And it was a huge India shining opportunity. So 2015, I came back to India. And I was in Paris then. And I bought this company in India, which is called Sharekhan. So it was India's 3rd largest digital broker. And another day, another time, it's a great story on how to buy a company, which I went through. We lost the deal 4 times and eventually won. But what ended up happening when I bought the company was I discovered the magic in India, the business in India. And I felt it was the right time to be in India. And so I was back. I ran that company for a bit. In the end, with BNP Paribas, after 8 years, I left. I worked with Oppo, OnePlus, Realme, the Chinese entrepreneurs for a year and a bit more. And I was running their financial services startup. And, the founders and me had a deal, and the deal was I would get independence. So the minute I lost my independence, I said, thank you. I said, at least the French were serving champagne and oysters. The Chinese don't serve that. So I said, okay, if I have to lose my independence, then I will rather lose it for somebody else. And then funnily, one fine day, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, who is the founder of Paytm, and honestly, I know him since 2014, a fantastic guy. I never knew one person could change a country, but this one person changed India. Indians pay through mobile phones, and all of that happens because Vijay kind of believed in a vision, and I'll talk about it in a bit. But I was his fanboy since 2014. So imagine that you get a call from the guy you idolize, and the guy tells you on the phone, hey, Varun, I've heard a lot about you. I want to give you a job. And I was like, okay, sir, I will take it, but I don't want to work anymore. I want my own company. So he said, okay, Varun, if you want your own company, that's it. Why don't you come and meet us? And so that's how my journey started. I'm a COVID Zoom recruit, okay, so to speak. And I think there's a crisis again, and in a crisis, I made my move to join Paytm. It's been a fantastic journey in the last year or so. I'll talk a bit about Paytm and Paytm Money, but that's been my life. If there's one message I learned personally, is look forward to a crisis. If there's a second message I learned is I discovered very early the value of doing 0 to 1, right? Very early in my life. And because I discovered 0 to 1 and I discovered technology very early, I think it was easier for me as time got along, right? And these two things helped. And third thing I love doing is travel. So I personally travel a lot. I went to Pakistan first time in '98. I heard somebody who's from Pakistan. I'm one of the few lucky Indians who's actually been to Pakistan way back and spent an important amount of time as a kid. It's a fantastic place. But I've traveled a lot, and I really have been to 55, 60 countries. I enjoy it, and that's my life. Let's talk a bit about Paytm and about Paytm Money. So Paytm, as we see it, is a company founded by Vijay, like Dr. Venkatesh said, valued. The last valuation was about $20 billion US. An important, it's India's largest startup. To give you a sense of numbers, we did last month 1.5 billion transactions, right? And I'll just take a second for you to kind of assimilate that. But we did 1.5 billion transactions in Paytm, and at an accuracy rate of about 99.9%, right? Which means that if any external transactions failed, it failed only because, and that's about 5% higher than our nearest competitor, right? So essentially, that makes us India's largest payment company, that makes us India's largest transaction company, as you may want to look at us, or India's largest internet company, depending on how you measure a financial transaction, right? So Paytm then has three business lines. The first one, which is the moat of the company, or the reason why of our existence, is the payments business. So we are by far India's largest payment company. We have multiple business lines inside. We do everything from mobile wallet to UPI in India, to cards, to machines, to QR codes, to toll payments, to bill payments. You name payments and we're there. Normally we innovate in everything. We're doing always something new. And that's our first business. So it's our moat. It's the reason why Paytm does a fantastic job. And I'll give you a few innovative examples that Paytm has done. One nice thing they did, by the way, I'm speaking out of a 400-year-old house in Goa, right? And that's my new home. I moved during COVID, it's kind of nice. But if my internet drops in between, please blame the 400-year-old ghosts. Don't blame me, and I'll be back in action. But so Paytm essentially, we understood, for example, in India, big problem is sound. So when you're with a lot of vegetable merchants and you're on the street, we needed the customer is making a payment to the user, but the user doesn't, the guy who's receiving the payment, because so many people around, has to check his mobile phone. So we invented something called a sound box, right? Which essentially, the minute you pay, it goes ting, 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 and says your amount, right? So the minute you do that, a vegetable vendor now can't be defrauded, because a lot of customers, what they were doing was, sir, I've paid you, just show the screen, the poor guy doesn't have time, and they go on. So a lot of use cases like that, which we learn with time, have been converted to technology and have been scaled up, right? So if you see QR codes all across India, there's only one person to say thank you to, it's Vijay, right? So that's our first business. It's the reason why we have about 590 million registered users. We have about 150 to 200 million monthly active users. It changes up and down depending on the product and the seasonality of India. We have one app for consumers. We have one app for our business users, right? Because essentially they're receiving money, so you need a bit more reporting and so on. So that's our first business, payments. Our second business could be categorized as e-commerce businesses or internet businesses or digital businesses, right? So in the digital business space, we essentially have Paytm Insider, which is an events company. You have Paytm First Games, which is India's leading gaming company. You could have Paytm Travel, which essentially does air tickets. You have Paytm Bus, you have Paytm Mall, and a bunch of other businesses which essentially are giving internet services, right? Or e-commerce services, as you may. Our third business line is financial services, which is the newest of the block. I'm part of it. I head what you call Paytm Wealth or Paytm Money. So it's the investment offering of Paytm. But other than me, we have lending, where essentially we give loans to merchants and individuals. We have insurance. We own an insurance company, and we are insurance distributors. And then we are wealth manufacturers. So that's our business line. So that's Paytm for you. Roughly speaking, who are we? We are a technology company largely, which has very, very good marketing and distribution skills in India. But first, we are a technology company. So any solution that we have, we think tech first. right? So there's something to solve, there's a problem that comes up. We think how we can use technology and how can we solve it. So we just started Paytm with one vision, which is to have 500 million Indians being meaningfully financially included. That vision is still on. We are at it. I think it'll take another 5-7 years to get there, but we are, consistently at it. So that was Paytm. By the way, if you have questions, on Paytm, etc., you can keep typing and I'll get to see it. So I'll keep answering on the fly, or you could ask me later. Then let's talk a bit about Paytm Money. So Paytm Money was founded 2.5 years back. But the vision of Paytm Money was very unique. We said, hey, we need to get 100 million Indians to manage money on their own, right? So why do people work? People work largely, I don't say money is everything in life, but people work largely to accumulate wealth, right? Because money, if not, is not the only source of happiness, but it's a great source of happiness. Obviously, health, life, personal life, all these are very, very important things. But a company like ours works on the fact that Paytm Money's mission was to get 100 million Indians to meaningfully manage their money, their hard-earned money, right? So in India, if you're an Uber driver, or you're a businessman, or you're a millionaire, you work very hard to get it. This is, behind every successful person, there's such a fantastic story. Some of them get to tell it, others don't, right? And our job was to kind of say, we felt the industry was doing wrong. We felt the industry was kind of in a weirdly positioned way where the top of the pyramid consumers were getting differential advantage, whereas the bottom and the middle, which were working equally hard for their wealth, were not able to get the advantage. So we said, hey, why wouldn't we not get in that market and democratize it, right? And I'll talk about my business lines and my mission very quickly. But essentially, we have 4 business lines. So I run a company of, by the way, 350 people, 80 to 85% of which are either in product or tech. Okay, given my nearest competitors are at about 3,000, 4,000 people. Just to give you a sense of, and the largest companies in my space or my competitors would be in excess of 6,000 people. So the last company I bought and managed, it had 6,200 people, right? And so as I manage 350 people and 10 times the volume, we are essentially a very, very, what I would call a wealth tech company, right? But let's talk about one of the business lines. How have we thought about it? What's been our thought process? What's been our strategy? So product number 1 is called mutual funds, which we launched, which was our first product. So in India, there are 2 types of mutual funds. I'm not going to explain what a mutual fund is. I heard many of you are bankers and you say, I guess you know this. But in India, regulatorily, there are 2 types of mutual funds. There's a regular mutual fund and there's a direct mutual fund. Essentially, when you take a regular mutual fund, you pay a 1% commission to the bank or to the distributor from whom you are taking the funds, and you do that for the rest of your life. So imagine you've invested $100,000 and the commission in India is roughly 1% for the distributor and 1% for the asset management company. So the asset management company you have to pay all through, but the distributor, you pay 1% for the rest of your life. So if you invested $100,000 and the $100,000 in 30 years became, I don't know, $2 million. So on the 30th year, on the $2 million, you're paying 1% to the guy who came to you 30 years back to take a signature, right? And he's never contacted you after that. So that's the kind of structure that existed in India. We came into India and there was a product called direct mutual funds, right? And direct mutual fund essentially said the 1% commission that a distributor makes on the assets under management is gone. It's zero, right? So a company like ours works for zero. So I don't make money from that product, right? But that's my moat. That's the reason why people come to me. So we launched a direct mutual fund platform, right? And that was when we launched first time in India. Nobody had even had it. Today, direct mutual funds very popular in India. It's growing in popularity by 100% year-on-year growth. But back in my time, back 2.5 years back, it was not there. People were still investing in regular mutual funds because the banks and the independent financial advisors used to make a commission. But that was a product 1. But we just didn't go from regular to direct. We changed a few other things. In India, to invest, you needed to give an important amount of money. The smallest money you would get was 1,000 rupees a month. But we took that 1,000 and made it 100 and made it digital, made it on a mobile app where you did not need to contact anybody. So it was pure digital, click through. We put about 40 asset management companies and about 10,000 schemes or options onto a mobile app in about 12 pages. Organized it, had 3 credit rating agencies inside. And all of a sudden, the best place in India where you could start your monthly savings was Paytm Money, right? And that got us. And that business of mine today has 7 million consumers. We do about 18 to 20 million transactions in mutual funds a year. And that makes us one of the top in India in terms of mutual funds as a distributor. So that's my first business, right? Everything technology led, reducing the cost of operations, because all of a sudden you're reducing 5,000 Indian rupee transaction to 100 rupees. It's not easy, because everything that you think about minute cost has to be broken and has to be reduced, right? Because otherwise, and you have to think of scale. You have to think about 100 million people wanting to do this, right? Our second product is a very unique one. It's called Digital Gold. We are India's largest digital gold distributor. We have a 45% market share. We launched the product, so we were first in launching it. So as you may all know, Indians consume gold. If you ever see an Indian, he or she will be wearing gold. I'm an exception. I don't wear nothing, but most Indians will have gold somewhere in their life. We are the world's largest gold consuming country. And when we said that we will let people save on gold on a mobile app, everybody criticized it. Everybody said, no, this won't work. But then we said, hey, look, what if we could allow Indian consumers to buy gold on an app from 1 rupee to $150,000. It's a big amount, $150,000 in one click on your mobile phone. Then we said we will give you real-time prices. So no need to go to the jeweler. Jeweler has one price all day, whereas price of gold fluctuates every 30 seconds, right? So we said we will give real-time prices. Third, we'll give 24-karat quality. So the best quality, pure gold. And we'll store it for you. So we partnered with a government company. It's called MMTC. And they store the gold. They are the custodians, right? And so we said, okay, we'll store the gold and it's pure. So your gold chain looks like a gold chain after 3 years, right? And you don't have the mistrust of going to a jeweler, small or big. So we said we'll do that. And fourth, we say we'll cut the commission of the users to zero, because we do get some commissions from our manufacturer and small ones. And we said the business would be successful if we hit a lot of millions and millions of users. Okay, everybody criticized us. Everybody said this won't work. Why would an Indian get satisfied with something so deeply cultural and buy gold on an app? It doesn't make sense. I want to give you some numbers today, right? Today we have 62 million consumers. Okay, just think about it for a second. 62 million consumers. We've transacted 6,000 kilos of gold. And my best moment is not when I have all these numbers. My best moment is at 3 in the morning one day. I was at home and I noticed one customer, he was saving 5 rupees at 3 in the morning. Okay, sort of curiosity. So I call customers. By the way, if you follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn, you will see that I take customer service queries myself. I talk to about 50 to 75 customers a week as a practice. It's kind of something I do myself. So I picked up the phone and called this customer. I said, sir, I'm the CEO of Paytm Money. And he spoke to me in Hindi. He said, Acha, aap kaun bol rahe ho? Or, who are you? I don't care who you are, right? But could you, why have you called me, right? Is some fraud happening? I said, no, sir, I was just curious to know, why do you save 5 rupees in gold, right? And this guy happened to be a driver. And he got tears to my eyes. He said, my daughter is getting married 3 years from today. And today my savings is 5 rupees. And, I have no better place to do it than here, right? Because I know it's safe with Paytm. And I think when he said that, it kind of changed my life, because a lot of HNI or very rich people are saving with me every day. But we're also able to do changes which other people can't see. Now, there's an important number I forgot to give you. What makes me proud about my mutual fund business is not all those fancy numbers, 7 million users and all of that. What makes me proud is we have at least one customer in 99% of all PIN codes in India. What makes us proud even more is 60% of our users are first time ever to financial markets. They've never done a mutual fund investment, right? What makes me the proudest is 45% of my customer base is less than 25, right? So it's a very, very interesting story that is getting stitched in India, all thanks to 350 people. Right? It's a very small team if you think about it. Our third product is pension planning. It hasn't taken off in a big way. And the reason for that is I don't think Indians think what will happen to me when I'm 60. In Asia, I think in general, retirement planning is very, very scarce. We all are very worried about next month, but nobody cares. We think God will come and help us at 60. Yeah, but so we don't plan. So that product of mine doesn't sell at all, because it's very tough. If I talk to a consumer saying, hey, because we don't talk, right? We have no call center. We don't ever push you to buy, etc., etc. But when I talk to a consumer, I'm saying, sir, why have you not taken NPS? Varun, why do I need it? I have all this money. What will I do at the end when I'm dying? Right? And, my kids will take care of me. Interesting. I said, sir, what if your kids run away, right? Then what are you doing? Right? But, it's a very different social system in India. So we don't follow it. And the last business we launched very recently after I joined is the equity business. So we are now doing IPO, ETF, futures and options, derivatives, the most complex of things, the most simplest of things. We do intraday trading. And we've got about 250,000 customers in the last 6 months since launch. We are one of the smallest, youngest brokers in India, but we're already in top 10 in terms of new acquisition month on month. We do about 250,000 trades a day. That kind of gives us maybe a 1% market share in a very, very competitive market. A market with a long tail. There are over 5,000 brokers, and the top ones are maybe 10 years ahead of us. So these are the businesses that I run. I'll maybe take, and Dr. Venkatesh, I'm watching time. I have another 15 minutes to go, right?
Yes, yes, please.
Cool. So those are the 4 businesses, right? But don't look at a business. Let's go back and start thinking about the strategy of the company, right? So the strategy of the company for us was to say 100 million Indians being able to manage wealth on their own. So what did we do? The first thing we did is we said we have to make it simple, because simplicity is highly underrated. You know, when I used to work for the French in BNP Paribas, and I used to run very large projects and large teams. And one of the things I realized when I started following Paytm, and I started following Paytm, like I told you before, in 2014, was it was simple, right? You press a button in India, you take an Uber ride, your payment gets auto-paid. You order food on Zomato, it gets auto-cut. I was like, hey, this is, it's simple and nice, but this is not a product. It's not cool. Why don't we add this feature? Why don't we add that feature? Those are debates we used to have all the time. But then, as I started seeing the success of Paytm, I realized that consumers, the most highest intelligent consumer or the lowest in terms of intelligence, in terms of need, is exactly the same, right? And they all like things really simple. So that's a huge realization, and it's very tough to do, right? And how do you bring simplicity and other things to a product which is scaled, where you have all sorts of customer segments? Like somebody always asks me saying, hey, Varun, who's your focus? I said at 7 million users and gold at 60 million users, I don't have every single customer segment. You'll find a guy with a Rolls Royce, you'll find a guy on a cycle, all working on Paytm money, trying to save and trying to be happy, right? And all of them work off one mobile app, which is one screen, and that's the magic, right? So that has to happen with simplicity. And that's, I think, one of our biggest tenets. Our second big tenet or principle with which we value is transparency. Then I give you a few examples. When we came to India to launch mutual funds, direct mutual funds, it didn't exist. People didn't know what commission they were paying. So the minute I have a chat with the user saying, hey, you've invested $100,000, it's going to be $3 million in 30 years, and you're paying 1% for the rest 30 years of your life, and you do the maths and tell me whether it's worth it, and he's never or she's never going to go ahead and take a regular mutual fund again, right? Because transparency allows you to be open. Now, when you're open, it also has a double-edged sword, right? Because then people also examine you. So I urge you to go to my Twitter, and you'll see how users are directly at you, right? They're not holding back their words, and it's perfectly fine for us. But we are happy being a transparent company because we think the financial space in India deserves a disruption, especially the investment space. And we are able to do that with the tenet of transparency. But we're very honest, right? We're very simple. Second example I'll give you is in the equity broking space. The whole market in India operates today roughly at about 20 rupees an order, right? Which is about 20 rupees. So every time you place an order, you pay 20 rupees. And users place millions of orders. So we brought the 20 rupees to 10 rupees in India, right? So nobody else operating at that price point, because I'm able to discount from 20 to 10, which is very, very steep discount if you think about it. Whereas the full service brokers in India are at 80 rupees or 100 rupees, right? So for somebody sitting in a bank, I have discounted the bank by about 90%, right? For somebody sitting in another tech company, I've discounted by about 50%. Now, the reason they're able to successfully do that is because of technology, right? And I think one of our tenets there has been, let's be transparent about it. So when a user asks me saying, hey, Varun, why are you giving me 10? I say, the product is great. It's simple, it's fantastic. But the reason I'm able to do it is my costs are low. And I'm still happy. And the trick for us is to keep those costs low as we build a sustainable business, right? Because it's important. And I can't keep taking money from investors all the time, right? And we have to ensure we are profitable. I have to ensure I have employees who have very high demands. Because if you're running a 350-member team, we are almost the Bruce Willis of Die Hard or the Sylvester Stallone of Rocky, right? It's a bit like that for us. So that's the second principle. The third principle for us is a merger of what I would call EQ, DQ, TQ, IQ, PQ, right? So when we try and solve a problem, we try and solve it, obviously, EQ, which is emotional quotient, and IQ. But we also look at TQ, which is technology quotient, and DQ, which is data quotient. how could we use tech and data and the merger with emotions, the merger with what people need, the merger with what we are able to do. And that's how we try and solve problems. Now, it's not an easy thing to do. Very, very tough thing to do. Let me give you an example. In India, most traders, most people who trade in the stock markets, they tend to lose money. And if they lose money, they tend to be inactive after 18 months. So in India, if 100 people have opened a trading account, in 18 months, only 23% stay back as active, right? So the biggest problem you're solving as an industry is how do you change this 23% to 50%? Because essentially you're bringing customers in and this kind of feel not welcome after 18 months. So we tried to understand why is that, right? And what we did is internally, we set up a table. So instead of managing how much profits we do or how much revenues we do, we flipped the question. We said, let's understand how many of our customers are meeting their financial goals, right? And how many of our customers actually lose money or win money every day. And in the stock market, 50% people every day will win and 50 will lose. The question is, which is the 50, right? Or who are you? Which camp are you part of? Right? And what we started to do was starting to measure every day which retail investor is losing or who's winning. And if you see consistently a guy winning, he's okay. If you see a guy consistently losing, there's some trouble. If you see a guy winning, losing, you start to say, okay, I need to measure a bit more. Is he okay? Is he happy with the risk appetite? Is he doing consciously or is he doing accidentally? Right? And you want to build a product that allows you to manage these kind of behavioral patterns across millions of customers, across millions of trades a day. Right? Now, when you try and do all this, what we started to realize, and I'll give you some simple examples, we started to realize that users do 7 good trades on an average. The 8th one, they get it so wrong that the 7th profit of the 7th is gone. Kind of weird. So all I have to do is ensure that the 8th trade of the client is a bit more cautious, is a bit more careful, and is a bit more well-planned. That's it, right? If I'm able to do that, all of a sudden, our consumers are better off, right? And so we started to take learnings like this, and instead of communicating with clients and telling them, hey, what are you doing? Because that's not a scalable model. I can't scale that to 50 million Indians. We try and build it back into our product, right? We try and build it back into our algorithms. We try and build it back into my development. And as I try and do that as a repeated cycle every day for the next, hopefully, 10 years, we would have a system and a product and a platform that allows us to win. Right? So as we start to think about some of these things, my learning has been that a lot of things get solved only when you do that TQ, DQ, IQ, EQ, PQ combination. Right? And it's something unique that we've done. Maybe 2 other points, and then I'm almost at the end of Paytm Money, and open up for questions. And I hope you find this interesting. But the second last thing I wanted to talk about a bit is about people and values, right? And how do we run the company? Because I think at the end of the day, I can say all that I want to say, but the time I'm sitting here, India is in COVID, and it's a very, very tough week for us back in India, and it's a crisis, and we hope the crisis comes down, but it doesn't look like this. Looks like a month, maybe 2, maybe 3 month issue, and as we see that through, we have live investors, live traders. Markets are extremely volatile. So there's a team back there working across 22 cities in India. We don't have an office today. We are completely digital. We flipped last August. We said, we predicted COVID would last for another 2 years. And we said, okay, we don't need offices because people need to be safe. People need to move to the cities they prefer to live in for the next 2 years. So my team one day did a poll and they were in 22 cities. So I said, hey, I'm not going to be able to pull you guys back. There's no purpose. And so we gave up our office and we're working remotely. Like I'm talking to you, that's how I work with my team. And funnily, my team has never seen me. So they actually don't know how tall I am or how fat I am. What you see of me is what my team has seen of me, right? And there's no physical interaction because I joined as a new CEO and I never saw that. But why does Paytm Money succeed? I think it succeeds because I have a fantastic team which works on 2-3 different values. Value number 1 is entrepreneurship. I think anybody in Paytm first thinks about, I am an entrepreneur. This is my company. This is my product. The ownership levels are so high. The commitment is so high that it's just fantastic. Second thing I need to pride ourselves on is energy and speed. At Paytm, and I'll give you a small example. Mirai Asset Management, I'm sure you heard of it. About 10 days back or 15 days back, they launched a ETF. Facebook, Amazon, Tesla I'm sure you know what a FANG is, a FANG ETF. And my tech team, I went back to them and I said, hey, there's a huge product coming in India. Can we pull it off? And they said, Varun, you're asking us to pull off such a big project. And how much time do we have? Do we have 3 months? I said, hey guys, we have 8 days. Right? And they said, okay, Varun, give us a day, we'll think and come back to you. The next day they came back and said, Varun, we'll get it done. It will not be 100% Paytm Money experience, but it will be 98%, and we'll get there. And surprisingly, we launched it. It went live yesterday, and it's very nice. It's working. Users are happy, and we are able to pull it off. I think that happens because there's energy and speed in the team, right? And third, rewards. I think the team is rewarded. We are very merit driven. We understand a lot of youngsters. Like my growth is managed by a young girl who got promoted, right? So she's fantastic. We give her 3-4 level promotion, and she manages growth directly. So that's the second last point I wanted to mention, the culture of the company. I think we're a small family, digital family. We haven't met each other. We do our fun parties online. We call it bring your own drinks. Okay, so we do BYOD. We get drunk and I don't know when a camera goes off or when a camera comes on. But yeah, those are fun parties. We hear each other saying, and during these times, what we realized is the world has flipped technologically. It's flipped. There's no going back. And the flip has been so huge in India. And that leads me to my last point, is in my opinion, 2020, 2030 is the single most fantastic decade to be in India. I think there's no better time. And there's a multiple bunch of reasons for it. Reason one is the startup culture in India is fantastic. It is just excellent, right? And the number of startups that are coming up, the number of entrepreneurs, the number of young brains. I came back in 2015 and so many other thousands of other youngsters were working. So startups are great. Funding is not a problem for the startups anymore. Second, I think the Indian government, regulation, infrastructure, all that hard work has been done in the last 10 years to get ready for the next step. So that's also almost done. And I think that's kind of propelling a company like Paytm Money or many others to do great innovations, which otherwise would have not been possible. What I do is possible because I have a regulator that is fundamentally cool, right? That I have a regulator which is fantastic. I have a regulator that thinks digital, that thinks ahead of what I think, and that's just fantastic, right? So that's I think we're in a fantastic decade, and yeah, I would love that some of you, once COVID is over, if you come back and you ever want to visit Paytm Money, I'm in Goa. Okay, so I don't know if the world will still be digital or physical, but our offices are based in Bangalore and partially in Bombay and now in Pune. If you ever come to India or you're interested in coming to Paytm, very happy to host you. Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh, for inviting me. I think it was a pleasure, and like I said, I hope you enjoyed the session.
Varun, thank you very much. That was a fantastic exposition, and many of us are told in the foundations of presentation classes that there is this whole thing called death by PowerPoint. And sometimes the PowerPoint can be distracting. So I think it was a beautifully delivered talk with a lot of coherence and without aids and PowerPoints, etc. Thank you very much. So we do have quite a few questions. So now I think Professor Rao has a couple of questions. May I now invite Professor Rao? He typed in the questions, but Professor Rao, would you like to take the microphone? Hello? I guess, Professor Rao, are you there?
Hearing you, a couple of questions is, now that RBI is increasing the scope of functioning of fintech companies in India, they have, in the recent policy, they have allowed RTGS, NEFT to be handled by the non-banks. In this environment, how the risks are to be managed, more particularly at the line management level, because the turnover of the staff tends to be much rapid in the financial sector, because the financial sector in India is expanding very fast. So what precise strategies at the organizational level, apart from having policy framework, Competency building.
Doctor, a great question. And I think I'll answer it in two different ways. I'll give you an example of Paytm Payments Bank, and I'll give you an example of Paytm Money. So it's very real, and I hope that makes the answer far more concrete rather than theoretical. So, so from my perspective, Paytm Payments Bank, is a bank, and many of you may not know it. We have about 60 to 65 million consumers there in the bank. It's a bank that runs off an app. And it's a bank that is India's largest payment bank. It's profitable. And very recently, RBI, like Professor Rao was mentioning, or a regulator for the banking sector, has allowed the bank's limit to go up, is slowly allowing the bank to become a full-fledged bank. And the regulator is very impressed with the kind of technology and framework. How do we do risk management there? I think risk management there is very automated, because you can't build when you're doing 1 billion transactions. Right? Imagine doing 1 billion transactions a month. Whatever competency you have, you can't build it based on people, because the knowledge of a human brain is unimaginable, but it needs to be transformed to technology. So one of the things we've done is our whole risk management infrastructure, our whole fraud management infrastructure is completely digital, completely real time, completely AI ML run. And I think that has allowed us to make sure that at a transaction level, because at the end of the day, from a customer's point of view, there is a truth in the transaction. Do frauds happen? They still happen, right? In India, frauds still happen because somebody will call the user and say, give me a password, and the user gives his password. There's no fraud for that, right? Whatever protection I do, if somebody actually is so ignorant, then there is a chance. We're even building tech for that. So we even done product changes saying, okay, the customer in this case is not so aware. So what kind of tech can I do so that the customer gets aware? Can I put limits and so on and so forth? So, but whenever we try and think of risk management, whenever we try and think of fraud management, whenever we try and think of operational risk or market risk or credit risk, we try and think of it, solving it at scale. So we have a rule inside Paytm saying, hey, try and solve it for at least 5 million users and try and solve it technologically. That's first thing we do. Second thing I think we've done is like any good banking institution or financial institution should do, is we put a lot of what I would call processes in place or controls in place. So our control systems evolve all the way from a risk team to a fraud team to a compliance team to a 4I principle, then to a 6I audit, then to external audits. We're very transparent with the regulator. So Paytm Payments Bank, over the last 5 years in India, the regulator did not have confidence on the payment banks. And that's why the regulator imposed all sorts of limits and said, as you grow and as you start managing banking, we'll make you equal to a proper commercial bank. But I think those days are so near, because you feel the payment banks are now doing a fantastic job and Paytm leads the way. So that's Paytm Payments Bank. I'll answer my own department, Professor Rao. So I run Paytm Money, and SEBI, or the stock exchange regulator, regulates me. Right now, it's more tougher than the Reserve Bank, because stock markets are real time, instant, digital. We've got all sorts of controls ranging from people controls to process controls to system controls. And we do 2I, 4I, 6I. And we've kind of made the process less people driven. So one of my compliance officers was to resign. Nothing changes for me, because I understand people move. And you're absolutely right, Professor. Our attrition is very, very high. It's a competitive sector. The minute you're in a top company, everybody loves a Paytm Money employee. Right? And everybody wants a Paytm Money employee. So my life becomes very difficult to keep staff. But I think technology, data, and being very process-driven helps. And the last thing I always say this is the top management has to believe in it personally. So be it Vijay, who's the founder of the company, India's largest startup owner. You can't imagine, we had a technology issue for 30 seconds, and that resulted in some 20 customers having a small issue. But we write an incident report for it. Vijay reads it. I have my seniors in the board. We review every incident report, because we want to make sure that those incidents don't get repeated again. Right. So yeah, so I think it's a bunch of things, Professor Rao, but all put together.
Mostly system driven, you mean to say?
Yeah. I think system, technology, and leadership commitment, if it's not there, that regulation is important and risk is important, it will never happen.
Because I see that microtransactions, like right from 10 rupees to thousands of rupees, whenever I see small vendors accepting Paytm, I feel very happy that India has transformed. But I was wondering every time that how such large transactions are being managed and how risks are being managed, because operational risk, like if you are very much system driven, then there is a cyber security, cyber crimes, and then firewalls, and how foolproof are the firewalls, and what is the continuity, business continuity plans. So all these things come to my mind. That's why when I got an opportunity to talk to you, I thought that you are the right person to clear some of these points.
Absolutely. I hope I answered your questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Rao. I think of course, this is this is a question that comes to many people's mind, who are not in the thick of it. I'm going to invite I'm going to invite one of our alumni, Mr. Sarware Akhtar, who works with the Central Bank of Bangladesh. His question is probably something that many of us have in mind. Sarware, I'm giving you the microphone. Can you come online? Hello?
Hello.
Good
evening, sir.
Good evening.
So my question is the idea of gold transaction via the Paytm. It's nice idea, interesting idea, but how much confidence did people show in this transaction? I mean, purchasing gold via Paytm.
So the honest answer, thank you. Very, very good question. It's a combination of a marketing plus a risk plus a ops plus an IT question. It's a typical question my investors ask. Right? So, and coming from a regulator in Bangladesh, I think it's a great question. I think consumers never show trust. Consumers will not show trust till they experience, right? So when we go out there, what did we do internally first to be sure that we are taking the right product out? Because I think that's most important. What's our internal due diligence? What did we do? So one of the first things we did is we partnered with this company. It's called MMTC. It's government owned. Because what we did not want to do is say the gold is managed by Paytm, right? So I act as a distributor. So I actually am not a custodian, because the minute you're a custodian, your responsibility, fiduciary responsibility is so high, right? Your voluntary responsibility is so high. And we were aiming at maybe 50,000 kilos of gold, right? It's, when you kind of think about that value of gold, is immense. So what did we do? We said, okay, let's partner with a government company, because then at least you're sure of some basic rules and some basic minimum requirements. Second, we set up, together, and obviously MMTC as a partner has done this, so I give full credit to them. They invited another bank to be a trustee and an auditor, right? Essentially, so the trustee makes sure that the physical gold is actually kept. So every time a consumer is buying digitally, there's a piece of gold somewhere getting stored, right? Which means that when the consumer wants the gold back, he can either sell it on the live market, or he can request, I want a gold biscuit, right? So both the things were done. Then once this is done, our IT system has to be simple and has to be trustworthy, right? Because when the customer comes in, if his buy transaction goes through, but his sell transaction doesn't, he's like, dude, these guys are not reliable. Okay, and if reliability is lost, you'll never get a repeat behavior. Now, once we set up everything and once we've got everything going, and we've got the highest level of cybersecurity, data privacy, all those necessary things to make the product great. Then, funnily, I'll narrate a small story to you. So I watch my consumers a lot, okay? Because for me, that's important. So one of my consumers, he has about $3 million in his account. Very, very wealthy consumer. When we launched gold on Paytm Money app, he was buying for 100 rupees, then 50 rupees, then selling it, then buying it. I'm like, what behavior is this? Right? So my, my risk system, or I got a report saying, hey, your very important consumer is doing this kind of behavior. So I was a bit surprised. I said, hey, is he not understanding or something else? I picked up the phone and called this guy. I said, so how are you? He said, hi, Varun, good to hear from you again. And I said, sir, what's happening? He said, Varun, I don't trust the system. Okay, I have to experiment. And I said, sir, you have so much wealth already with us. He said, yeah, but everything new I do, I like to try. And I think that's the big difference, where consumers try the product. And there's no better trust barrier to cross than trial and error. And once they try, they realize this works, then they take bigger amounts. So yeah, so I think on one side, from a regulatory framework, we've done the maximum possible that you could. We're very adept on our reporting, we make sure everything is there. On the second side, the consumer experience is great. And the third is customer service. Things do go wrong. You know, imagine in a country like India's size, people are getting their gold shipped to them. So, you know, a consumer is getting a brick of gold shipped to him or her. There is bound to be issues in logistics. When that happens, we are right there on time, right? My tack to a customer query is super good. So yeah, so we do all those things to earn trust, and it's a journey. It never happens in 3 months' time. I think now we are 3 years into the product, and we feel we are leaders in India, and we've done a lot of volume. So now we start to see consumers setting up what I would call a gold SIP. For me, a moment of trust earned is when a consumer commits to a monthly investment plan, not random buying. And so a lot of consumers are now committing to buy gold every month for whatever amount or every week. So the minute they start doing that, I know that I've earned their trust, right? So that trust percentage is for me the most important. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a new experience for me. Thanks a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you, Varun. I think that is a very important point. You know, trust is through repeat transactions and making sure that it works. You know, and every time there is fulfillment, there is that much more trust in the system. Shivant, I see that you posted something. May I now invite you if you'd like to post a question? Shivant, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
No.
Thank you, Professor Venkat. Sorry, my mic was on mute as usual. Mr. Sridhar, it's such a pleasure to get to share, hear your experiences. Greetings from Nepal. So actually, just briefly about my background. I am the CEO of NIBL ACE Capital, which is one of the oldest and largest capital market outfits in Nepal. We're currently servicing over 1 million customers through various channels such as mutual funds, wealth management, our DP, depository platforms, and through our share registrar platforms. Simultaneously, I've just also launched a digital wallet from our parent bank. So we're trying to now, obviously do what you have started to do, and you've, really lit up the way for us here in Nepal. We really follow the, Indian markets and activities and try to, emulate that. So my questions are actually very operational in some senses. And, you mentioned customer service while talking about digital gold. And that was one of the things that was forefront in my mind, is that when you deal with such a huge customer base of 7 million, Paytm is 100 million plus, and the Indian market is a huge potential base. So how do you communicate with your consumers, your customers? How much AI do you use? How much real person power do you need at some point? Because this is a very specialized business. Yes, we can sell mutual funds and SIPs and small unit holders, but once these people become, once our clients become more sophisticated, they will want to move up the market chain. So then outreach and communication and also knowing your client becomes really challenging. The recent MobiKwik hack in India, really exposed the dangers of the businesses we're entering into in the digital age. So, what are your thoughts on that, and how are you prepared to kind of deal with any sorts of threats of that sort, penetrations, hackings, exposure of customer data, etc. Finally, like, what is the business model that you kind of latch onto here, because you're part of Paytm, which is a huge behemoth in terms of financial services and providing the whole spectrum now, and you are getting more and more entrenched as a more than just financial services. So is it that your business can really run on its own 2 feet, or is it just a part in a cog in the whole machinery that all has to work for you for the whole big model to work? For now, that's my few questions. Thank you.
Very, very good questions. Obviously you come from the same sector, and that's that's very evident. And I would love at the end of the meeting, I'm going to give all of you a request, right? But I'll hold on to my request from all of you. But I'll take the question. So there's one question on servicing, customer service, internet security, and third was on business model. On customer service, I'll give you a few numbers. We have about 60 people in my call center team, so to speak, and that will be ramped up to about 80 or 100. Compare that to the number of customers I have, and we're really operating thin, right? Now, the reason for that is, so I don't have bots. I don't do customer service with bots, right? And there's a very strong reason for it. And I think at the beginning of your journey, especially in a country like India, where onboarding all these users were new, a bot kind of loses trust, right? Because every human has his own need, his own way of communication, right? So we don't use a bot, but we've productized service. What does that mean? We've taken very painfully steps to make our product self-explanatory. Like when you're investing, your biggest problem is, has my money reached? Has my money been taken by the asset management company? Have my units been allocated? When you're redeeming, the same problem. So we realized that, and we kind of automated and productized the whole platform. So all those queries went from maybe 40,000 a month to 4,000, where only real queries started coming to us. Then as step 2, we have a very, very neatly done frequently asked questions, which is not normal, right? So then we notice that our users are what they're clicking, what is the problem, and we try and understand how do we bring this 4,000 down to 400, right? The 400 that are left are now managed by people, and they're the real genuine ones. But if I was to start managing 40,000, 50,000, all of a sudden, in terms of people, I would have had 1,000 people army, right? And that's how I'm still at 350 people. And the reason for that is we are able to automate / productize and put everything back into the platform. Now that's a journey. On day 1, when you launch, you'll never have it. It's impossible, right? So when you launch, while you're getting scale, the single most important thing, and that's why I said I do customer service myself, because the minute at 1 a.m. at night, a customer is really pushing me back on Twitter, I take his mobile number, I call him at 1 a.m. at night or 10 in the morning, whatever time that there is, and I respond to him. He or she tells me the problem exactly. I don't need a product manager. I don't need my product team, technology team to tell me what's wrong. And the fact is, because I'm so hands-on with that, my whole team is hands-on, and they're all watching every single customer query that comes in. And we take it back into a product environment. We use something called Jira, and we have Jira tickets getting generated, and we make sure that it's closed. So it's fairly, the process of automating queries is an important one. And that's the only way you'll ever be able to manage it. Because if you think that needs are advanced, that's a fallacy. I don't think customer needs are advanced. Actually the richest guys or ladies want to spend minimum amount of time managing their money. And you know why? Because they've already worked hard enough to get it, right? So actually the smaller, younger one is far more tougher to manage than the richer client, because richer client just wants to get done what he or she wants. And actually we started to realize that the richer the client is, the lesser complexity he or she wants. Actually, the financial sector has made it complex to make margins, right? Because you don't get margins till we make things complex. So I think that simplicity right at the top, which is kind of counterintuitive, is kicking in. Because people realize, hey, it's simpler to do this and enjoy my life. And especially wealthy people, and as they get wealthier, they don't want complexity. So I think that realization we brought into the product. So you will not find us offering very complex products because that gets us a bigger commission. We don't do that. So I think that's part 1 of your question. Part 1, internet security, and even Professor Rao asked about it. Cybersecurity, very important. Data privacy, extremely important, right? And I think the more successful you are these days, the tougher it is. Because the more visible you are, the more somebody or everybody is trying to find a hole in your systems. And so we are very, very cautious about it. We have multiple layers. We've done all the necessary IT things. We do things like VAPT before a product goes out. Then we do double VAPT. Then we have our IT security work. We have a cyber SOC, which is the Securities Operations Center. We do a bunch of very advanced stuff. And in the case a hack happens, because it's like saying a fraud will never happen. Frauds happen. It's like saying theft will never happen. In the case something does happen, we've made our system in a way in which even if the hacker gets access to X or Y, he can't access consumers' financials, right? So your money is safe. And I think that's very, very important. Because at the end of the day, we try our best so nothing has happened, and touch wood, nothing has happened to us in the last so many years that Paytm has operated. But if something was to happen, consumers don't lose financial, right? And I think that's the tenets of our work. And the last question was business model. Very simple answer. If I can't stand on my own 2 feet, I don't deserve to stand. So when I joined and I took this company, I told Vijay, I said, look, Paytm's great, but I want to be like Paytm. Even I have a dream. I want to be valued at $20 billion. And I want Dr. Venkatesh to say, Paytm is this company which everybody in the world knows. Right? Today he says Paytm Money, but he introduced his introduction started with Paytm, and I would love Paytm Money to be there. Right? And that's a journey to make, and the journey starts with us doing three things right: making profits, but also doing good to society. One of the things I learned the hard way, and I learned it the hard way, and we don't have time for a full story, but I was in Paris and I did something that was great for my company, great for my employees, great for my users, but not great for climate. Right? And I did not have the sensitivity personally. I think that's changing in the world. When Vijay gets up in the morning, he says, Varun, do whatever you want, but do good. Right? Fundamentally be a good company. And I think business model will come. I am one of Paytm's 50 businesses. So for sure, when I get a consumer and the consumer gets onboarded and does a great job with me, we make profits elsewhere, for sure. So that also adds to my P&L, that helps me become more sustainable. But I think at the bottom line, every unit, every business has to make money on its own, right? And has to do, in my opinion, good to society. If not, it's no point. Yeah, I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Here we have with us another alumnus from the Central Bank of Bangladesh, Anwar Ulal. Anwar, are you there? Anwar? Oh, I'm sorry. Anwar, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very clearly. I see your
evening.
question about CRR and SLR. I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, actually, in Bangladesh, we have another kind of institutions that are we call PSP, payment service providers, like Paytm. So these institutions are actually not banks. So we, from Central Bank, we have policy that these institutions have to maintain an account in commercial bank that will be termed as trust cum settlement account, and the fund that is maintained by these entities from the publics should be deposited in those accounts, and those accounts are subject to inside and offside regulation of the Bangladesh Bank. So my question is here that how Paytm secure the public fund? Is this institution is required to deposit SLR or CRR like banks, or is it maintaining trust cum settlement account like our model?
Yeah, so Mr. Anil, very good question. So let's split Paytm financial services into two parts, or maybe three parts. One where we accept public funds, which is Paytm Payments Bank, right? So the Paytm Payments Bank is regulated by Reserve Bank of India like any other bank, with standard ratios, with minimum amounts, with escrow accounts. All those regulations apply to us as Paytm Payments Bank, because that's the only place where we actually collect consumer funds, right? And that's where we run our wallet, that's where we run our UPI business, etc. So that's very regulated, strictly as per RBI rules, and RBI follows CRR, SLR. RBI actually follows 20 other ratios, right? There's a minimum capital adequacy, all of that is there, card ratios there. So all that is implemented as it is. We are not allowed to give loans through Paytm Payments Bank because it's a payment banking license, and hopefully that will change in a couple of years. But till that's there, all the other ratios which are applicable to a payments bank are maintained and are managed. There's a second type of businesses like mine, where my broking business is regulated, right? Where I'm a manufacturer because I kind of take client funds which are then invested in the market. My client funds are restricted to be used only for keeping a fixed deposit in a certain bank. So we do that as per government rules, because as a broker, I can't have access to those funds. My mutual fund business, I'm a distributor. So actually the manufacturer takes it. So in those businesses where I'm a distributor, I don't touch the money. Like the money never flows through me. I'm just running the payment flows, and I execute the transaction and my revenue is on the transaction. And the third type of businesses are the ones which are unregulated, where anyway we are not allowed in India to take public funds. Yeah. So yes, Mr. Anwar, like any standard bank, Paytm Payments Bank follows the process.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There is a question from Mr. Rubin. What is the prospect of cryptocurrency as a digital currency? But an add-on question is, given the valuation that some recent IPOs of brokers have got, is this a line of business that Paytm might enter into?
Yeah, I'll give my personal view on crypto. I think it's cryptocurrencies actually solve some problems, right? I'm a firm believer that anything that solves a problem eventually will have regulatory trust, consumer buoyancy behind it. But it has to solve something. Right now, cryptocurrency, when you go detailed into it, actually solves a bunch of things, which normal currencies in the world are not able to solve. We can have a discussion on that separately. But my personal point of view is cryptocurrencies do solve some use cases. Our official stand on cryptocurrency for Paytm is that we will launch it only when the Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, and SEBI, so the regulator, have framed rules and regulations. Now, why is that? Because we are very cognizant of three issues. Issue number one is anti-money laundering, right? Because if you don't know who you're getting what from and who you're buying and selling from, there's a question of anti-money laundering, which the Reserve Bank of India has spoken about. So we value that a lot, right? The second problem is a problem of retail investors being secure. So when you put your money in a bank, when you put your money in a mutual fund, there is insurance, there is minimum schemes. Like Mr. Anwar asked this question, how do you save that money? Where do you keep it? There are regulations around, right? Tomorrow, when a retail customer buys something from Paytm, he trusts the brand. He knows that Paytm has done the hard work of making sure his money or her money is safe. And I think till regulation is there, we don't feel comfortable, right? So we're waiting for regulation to evolve in India specifically. And the day Indian regulation evolves, we've been at the forefront of innovation. I'm sure that if something like this does happen in India and the Indian government blesses cryptocurrency and says, hey, this is the way to go. This is what we are happy with. We'll follow and we'll lead. But I think we'll wait for that day. Personally, I think it's a very exciting time. Technology is changing many, many things.
And we have a question from one of our doctoral students, Dabu. Dabu believes that financial inclusion is still sluggish in most developing countries, but proudly Paytm has been able to make a breakthrough, at least in the Indian context. So his question is, what were the impediments in the early stages of Paytm's life in making this inclusion happen? I mean, in another way, it would be to ask whether people were readily sort of accepting of payments through a mobile phone, or what was the conversion process?
Yeah, nobody does. At the beginning, in anything new is a disaster, right? Because consumers are worried, businesses are worried, everybody's worried about everything, right? And I asked Vijay one day, I said, hey Vijay, what was it that you felt or you experienced, right? Tell me about your starting story, how Paytm started. What happened and what was the challenges? I'll walk you maybe to 3-4 challenges that we faced. I think challenge number one is to have someone with a vision, and and to have that vision and to keep at it, because it's so easy to say, and I haven't experienced Nepal. By the way, I was supposed to be in Nepal next week, but due to COVID, I'm not coming. There was a TED event happening, and I was so excited when Dr. Venkatesh had actually invited me. I thought I'd made a lot of Nepali friends go there and network, but unfortunately, the situation is bad. But the thing is, let's say, for example, in Nepal, everybody needs to have it. It's not going to be easy. Somebody has to have that vision and has to hold on to it for the next 20 years. And has to have the dream, saying, hey, I want every Indian, and Vijay had this dream, saying every Indian, when he crosses the toll booth, the car should automatically deduct the toll charges. Because it happens in Europe, it happens in America. Why it can't happen in India? And there are 1 million reasons why it can't happen in India. But hey, the truth, it's happening in India. Paytm has a 50% market share on FASTag in India. It's happening. Real time cars zip through, and all the traffic jams on the toll places across India are now lesser and lesser. And I think it's fantastic. So point one, somebody or a bunch of people need to have that vision and hold it for the next 10, 15 years. Right? I never told you the reason I joined Paytm was I always had my dream that 100 million Indian people should have mutual funds. If China can have 600 million Chinese people having mutual funds, I'm sure India can have 500 million or 600. But we don't. We have 60, 70 million after so many years. Why? And I want to change that, right? I think my legacy, if I have a chance, whenever I retire, I would love to say that, hey, every taxi driver in India or every person in India has a mutual fund. I think it's fantastic, right? If somebody is able to do that, but you need to have that vision and that hunger. Point one. I think point two, you need a government regulator to be in sync with that vision. Now, that's something that's not going to happen overnight, right? That's something that happens every day for years together of hard work, of explanation, of discussion, of conversation. So in India, I think we were lucky to have multiple governments, regulators, a technology sector that allowed us to think in the same way. That's why from 2010 to 2020, infrastructure got organized, regulation got organized. Right? I think the third thing you need is investors who are patient. If investors are not patient and they tell you, hey, turn around a business plan in 3 years' time, like our professors used to teach me, right? A 3-year, 5-year business plan. You can't make a 3-year, 5-year business plan, right? I hope at Ait you don't teach that anymore because it's gone, right? Nobody knows the world. Every 18 months, the world is changing. It's no question of making a business plan for the clock. But what you can do is you can have an investor who understands that to change a country's behavior from paying through cash to paying on mobile and then making a business plan of it is a 10-year journey. And you need somebody to hold financially that journey. And I think the last thing you need is, one of the biggest challenges, and these are challenges come solutions, right? One of the biggest challenges is consumers. Users take time to change. The fun part is if you do the right targeting, you always find in every country, and I've experienced it in Turkey, in Poland, in America, in China, and now in India, there is an initial set of users. You need to go to them. If you can attract those users, they will experience your product because they're as curious as you are. The minute they experience, you know that your product is great, you get that critical mass because most transformations need critical mass. And I think getting that critical mass in India for Paytm was tough. But once we crossed the critical mass, millions of users were coming. But there is a 5-6 year hard work before that. Yeah. So I hope I answered that.
Fantastic. Absolutely spot on there. So the final question, and I think we are almost at the end of Varun's designated time. Devesh says, who is your nearest competitor in India today? And do you think that the mobile payment market is more or less mature, by which I think he means, is it saturated already?
No, very good question. Who's my nearest competitor? So many, right? As Paytm Money. Everywhere we throw a stone, we find a competitor, right? Because the company is so large, and in the investment business, if you're trying to onboard 100 million people, every bank is your competitor. Every distributor is your competitor. Every distributor is also your partner. Every bank is also your partner. I think, gone are the days where he is my competitor or he's my enemy. He's gone, right? We would rather partner with somebody and solve the problem together than do it differently. So, but the kind of net we are casting and the kind of mission we've taken on ourselves, it's never one. Because in equity broking, I will fight 3-4 very good people. In mutual funds, I'm fighting different set of 3 people. For digital gold, it's a different set of competitors. For pension planning, it's a different set of competitors. For app experience, I'm competing with Uber, with Zomato, right? With Airbnb. My consumer says, hey, it's so easy to book a hotel on Airbnb. Why is it so difficult to buy a stock? I can't tell him go to the regulator or government of India. The challenge I have is if it's so easy to book a hotel, I'll make it so easy to buy a stock, right? And I think that's where the industry is today. So it's uniquely positioned. We think of our competitors as people setting up great user experiences. Because as a user, you come to a platform and you say, this is what I was experiencing before. If the new experience is something similar, it's not worth it. But if the new experience is wow, now how do you define the wow? The wow gets defined by the user, not by you, not by me. And the user experiences not finance every day. He experiences eating, living, talking, dating, entertainment, running, exercising, right? So whenever I do a competitive benchmarking, I'm asking my users, which is the best app you have? Which is the best product you've experienced? And once they tell me that, that's my benchmark, right? So that's my true competitor. And that was question 1. Question 2, sorry, Dr. Venkatesh, I forgot.
Saturation is the payments.
Saturation in India is not saturated. I think 20 more years to go before we hit saturation, maybe 30. It's changing so fast. I think, mobile technology, I used to work for a mobile company before. I've seen some crazy things happening. I just feel we are at the start. Like I said, 2020 to 2030, maybe you ask this question to me when I'm 51, hopefully 10 more years from today, I could tell you, hey, we are just at the start of saturation. But, I think when India has 500 million consumers managing their money themselves, I would start to say the market's saturated. Today, we are at about 40, 50 million. So we're so far away. And I think the next 10 years belong to India. So, yeah, so it's a journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Varun. I have a lot of my MBA students also present, and I hope they found the talk inspiring. As a closing comment, what I would like to say is, beyond the valuation, beyond the numbers, beyond the market share, etc., we have to see whatever we do, is it making a difference to the way people live and work, right? And, in the fashion of management professors, I like to encapsulate this difference in terms of costs. Paytm has made it less expensive to do transactions, less expensive to invest, made it affordable for all. In terms of convenience, I can still see image of my parents trying to get a transaction done in a bank or buying a mutual fund. It's a fantastic convenience to have today, everything on our smartphones. And most important for me is choice. When you put all these mutual funds in one place with all their features and allow me a comparison and be able to say, yeah, this is the one that I want, I think that is truly empowering. So to all my MBA students and all my friends here, I think the way we have to see the revolution that Paytm Money is making is how they are making people's lives better through lowering costs, making things affordable, offering more convenience, reducing hassle of doing things, and finally giving us the choice that we all deserve. Varun, thank you very, very much in this very difficult time to take an hour and a half where your company is having a town hall. We cannot be more than grateful, more grateful. It's a fantastic thing that you have done this evening. And I'm sure all of you present here will join me in giving Varun a big hand and wishing him all the best in the journey ahead with Paytm Money and Paytm. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh. I had a fantastic time, and I've left my mobile number and email address for anybody who wants to get in touch. And, I said I'd make a request at the end. Whenever COVID is over, I would be, I'm going to start traveling. Travel is my favorite passion. So I'm looking forward to visit some of you, all of you. Be more than happy to see you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Kunab, keep the chat box open for our friends who might want to reach out to Varun later. So the Paytm Money email and the mobile phone number is available here. Floor is yours, Kunab.
Thank you, Dr. Venkatesh. Thank you, Mr. Varun, for a very beautiful presentation talk. And thank you once again for all the attendees and the panelists to join us this evening. So if you would need any further information, so please do not hesitate to contact us at our email address showing on the screen. So we wish you have a good evening.